I'm going to talk about the variance coverage prediction in the parametric series test. And this work is joined with Debbie Applegate and Aaron Archer. By the way, Aaron Archer is here in the audience. And David Johnson, my advisor at MobiHoc, and Nicole. So first, let's consider this building area. Suppose now we would like to find a good place to place the wireless access point in the building. So here comes the wireless coverage prediction problem. So now the goal is like, given we have a location for the access point, how can we predict the coverage of this access point? Namely, the goal here is like we'd like to simulate the signal strength feedback given the location of the access point. So in order to do this, there are three major kinds of algorithms that solve this problem. The first class is called the statistical method. So in the statistical method, we try to use some statistical tools like regression or neural network with very simple features. For instance, like the straight line distance or number of walls between the access point and the measurement point. So the good thing about the statistical method is that it's fast to compute, but on the other hand, it is not accurate. So in the second method, which is called the ray tracing method, as opposed of the statistical method, which we only use mostly use only the straight line path. In the ray tracing method, we are going to consider multiple paths that captures different patterns of reflection or diffraction or some other characteristics of the electromagnetic waves. So, of course, the ray tracing methods is more accurate, but in some sense, it is not efficient because we somehow need to compute all those paths. So, in the third model, which is called the dominant path model, someone integrates the advantages of the previous two models. It is fast and empirically accurate. In the dominant path model, we are not going to consider all these paths as in the ray tracing methods, but we only consider a single or 2 to 3 paths with the maximum receiver. And we're going to model the signal strength at the location of the antenna using this dominant path. So in this talk, I'm going to focus on the dominant path model. So first of all, I'm going to give you some detailed introduction of the dominant path model. The dominant path model was introduced by Wolfo and Stover in their 1997 paper. And after that, there are a couple of variants. But here, we are going to consider the particular version by Betts et al. In 2012. So in our model, we are going to consider that the signal strength is predicted using a single dominant path, which means that we only consider a single path with my maximum receivability. And we only allow the signal paths to change their direction only at the corners. So this means that we're going to consider straight line path, the path that changes direction at the left corner, and the path that changes its direction at these two corners, but we're not going to consider these two paths. So in the dominant path model, we are going to consider three kinds of the signal loss. The first one is the penetration loss, which is caused when the signal goes through walls. And the second one is the diffraction loss, which is caused when the signal changes direction around the corner. And the third type is the propagation loss, which is the free space attenuation loss. And it's a function of the distance. So for the advantages of the dominant path model, as I've mentioned, it's much more accurate than the simplistic wall counting or straight line heuristic in the statistical models. So it's mostly because like in the statistical models, we have to train different models for different kinds buildings. For example, the model that's been used in the airport might not be usable in a typical office building. But in the dominant type model, we don't have this issue. So it's less sensitive to errors in the building data. And the second advantage is that it's faster than the ray tracing method because we only need to consider one path instead of multiple paths. And also, it's empirically as accurate as the ray tracing method. So this is because that it is known that if we consider the dominant path, they mostly contribute over 70% of the received energy. So this has been observed in previous literature about the path model. So given this idea, if we only use a single path, the error is most likely within 1 dB. And the dominant path model has been included in many commercial softwares like WinFrog, Design, and Trace, and it has been used in many industrial projects, for example, like the projects from Qualcomm, AT&T, and Nokia, etc. And in our paper, we are taking this dominant path model as granted, and our main contribution in our paper is that we designed 2 faster algorithms for the dominant path model. So the first one is an exact algorithm based on the parametric for this path, and we show that it runs in polynomial time in the worst case, and by smoothness analysis, we can show that it actually runs in polynomial time in average case. So given the same analysis, same kind of the smoothness analysis, basically we can somehow show that it explains why linear programming runs in polynomial time in practice. And the second algorithm is a geometric progression algorithm, which is an approximation algorithm. So we showed that this geometric progression algorithm runs in polynomial time in the worst case, and we also built up a theory, analyzed its error. So we showed that the theoretical worst case error bound is about only 0.5 dB. And we also did some simulations showing that empirically this geometric progression algorithm actually finds the dominant path with very high power. And by the way, I have to mention that all the existing algorithms has worst case exponential time content. Okay, so before I get into the detail of the algorithm, I'll briefly talk about the path loss model of the dominant path model that we're using here. So the path loss function consists of 3 major components. The first component is the distance loss. So here, the first term here is a constant which captures observed path loss at a greater distance d0. So we're going to assume it to be 40 dB at 1 meter. Then this is a free space propagation loss. So we're going to assume that the signal loss is scales inverse quadratically to the distance. And then there's a wall penetration loss. So this part is caused when the signal goes through the walls. So we're going to assume it only depends on the material and the thickness of the wall. So for example, if it's a drywall, there's a 2 dB loss, and if it's a concrete wall, there's a 10 to 15 dB loss. And in the last component, it's a diffraction loss. So this is caused when the signal changes its direction around the volume. And we're going to assume that this quantity scales linearly in the angle. So, and of course, it depends on the material. So, for example, if it's a concrete wall, then there's a 17.5 dB per 90 degree. And if it's a drywall, then there's a 5 dB per 90 degree. So, if we rewrite the path loss function, we can get this simplified form. So, the first term is a constant, so we can ignore it. And the second part is a function of the total distance. So it has a form like a log of the total distance. And the last term is the total loss. So here the loss, I mean the sum of the wall penetration loss and the diffraction loss. Okay, so in order to predict the signal strength at the measurement point, the main idea here is that we try to reformulate this problem as a shortest path problem. So in the first step, we like to generate a graph. So in order to do this, let's consider this indoor flow plane. We can make the nodes to be the source, which is the location of the access point, and the corners, and the receivers. So the edges could be like the link between the access point and the receiver, and could be the link from the access point to the corner, from the corner to another corner, and from the corner to the receiver. And then in the next step, we like to assign the weights to each edge. So actually here we have two dimensions of the weights. So the first dimension is L sub E, which is the sum of the penetration loss and the diffraction loss. The second dimension is the distance of the link. And we call that our objective is to find a path with the minimum propagation loss. So here we can write it this way. So trying to find a path that minimizes the sum of the log of the distance plus the total loss of the path. But if you observe this objective function, you can find that it's actually a concave function. So this means that we can no longer use the algorithms for the classic version of the shortest path, like the backstrap algorithm, for algorithm, because these algorithms only works when the objective function is a linear function. So what can we do for the next step? So in the next step, I'm going to tell you some key ideas of minimizing a concave objective in the shortest path problem. So first of all, let's plot each path on this two-dimensional subspace generated by the total distance and the total loss. So here each red dot corresponds to a path. And if you look at this, that most red dot, it corresponds to a path with the minimum distance. And this bottommost red dot corresponds to a path with the minimum loss. And if we consider the convex hull of these red dots, then there's a lemma which says that if you are minimizing a concave objective, then the optimal path is always an extreme point of the convex hull of these red dots. So with this idea, let's consider this P star, which is the optimal path. We can find that it actually minimizes some linearized objective. Look like this. So in a linearized objective, I mean we can make the objective function from a concave function into a linear function. So it's a linear combination of the loss and the distance weighted by this parameter lambda star. So with this idea, we're able to design our XI algorithm. So the key thing here is that we are able to transform our original concave objective into a linearized objective weighted by this parameter lambda. So for the different lambda, we are actually resulting different points on the convex hull. So for example, if we set lambda to lambda 1, then we'll get this path P1. And if we set lambda to be lambda 2, then we're getting this path P2. So based on this, we're able to design our XI algorithm, which is simple. So by the way, here for each linearized objective, we're able to use, now we are able to use backstrap algorithm by the corresponding. So in the XI algorithm, what we are doing is that we can just do binary search on the lambda until all the extreme points on the convex flow are identified. And then we can just simply output this, output the one with the minimal propagation loss. So the next step, I'd like to analyze what's the complexity for the XI algorithm. So if we consider the number of extreme points on the lower left side of the convex flow, these three dots, it is known that in the worst case, there are quasi-polynomial such points. So which means that in the worst case, it doesn't sound like a good idea. But with the smoothness analysis, I find that under some small perturbations, in the average case, we only have linear number of such extreme points. And in our experiment, we show that in average, there are only constant number of such extreme points. But this, even though this XI algorithm sounds good in practice, but it is not good enough. So the reason for this is that in the XI algorithm, I only talk about the version with a single receiver. So this means that we are solving a single source, single destination version of the project. But recall that our objective is to generate this heat map, which is a single source, all destination version of the shortest path. If we try to use this XI algorithm, basically we need to identify, we need to somehow repeat this XI algorithm for all destinations. So this means that it's still not good enough. Therefore, we designed an approximation algorithm to make an improvement on the XI algorithm in the version of the all destination. So the core idea here is that instead of generating all extreme points for all destinations, we try to find a subset, a small set of lambda in advance, which means that we identify a small set of the linearized problem before we actually call the Dijkstra's problem. And then, since we identify a small set of the linearized problem, we can solve this linearized problem and then figure out what's the best path for each destination. So here, recall that by running Dijkstra's algorithm, we are not only getting a single shortest path for a single destination, but it also helps us generating the entire shortest path tree, which means that by running a single path of the Dijkstra's algorithm, we're actually getting the shortest path for all destinations with the same complexity. So the particular way that we do this is that we can use the geometric progression on the lambda. So the geometric progression, I mean, we can generate lambda sequentially, and in each step we can generate a new lambda by multiplying the previous lambda as a small factor. And given that we have this set of lambda, we can solve the corresponding linearized problem using the Dijkstra's algorithm for all destinations at the same time. And then for each destination, we can output the best path. And this will give us a good approximation. So lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about how can we derive the error block. So I'm not going to get into too much detail, but give you some simple idea. So let's consider this figure. So here we have 3 red dots. The middle one is the optimal one. And we have 2 suboptimal ones. And this curve corresponds to the level set of the path loss. So here, this one, the optimal one, has a minimum path loss. But this too has a higher path loss. So, you know that as I mentioned, for the optimal path, there exists an optimal lambda star, which corresponds to the linearized problem that gives us this optimal solution. However, in the geometric progression algorithm, it's likely that we are not actually solving this lambda star, but we might be actually solving this one and this one. So by geometric progression, it is somehow guaranteed that these two linearized problems are not deviated from this optimal one by the large factor. So which means that we are able to derive the error bound based on this idea. And we get the error bound looks like this. So this is a worst case error bound. So here alpha is about 8.686 dB in the typical building area. So if we put this number into this error bound, the error is only within like 5 dB. At the end, I'm going to show you some experiment results that we have in our simulation. So we ran our algorithm in two indoor area. The first one is an artificial office area, and the second one is a randomized area. So first of all, I'm going to show you that our algorithm is able to generate these two high-resolution heat map within very fast sense. So our geometric progression algorithm only takes about 4 seconds to 10 seconds in both cases. And our geometric progression algorithm runs Dijkstra's algorithm for only 10 times. And then we plot the error distribution in this plot. So here, the vertical axis, I see that it's a fraction of the source destination samples, and the horizontal axis is the additive error. So if we look at this point, this indicates that for 99% of the destinations, we're actually finding the exact dominant path. And if we look at this point, this indicates that for the remaining 1%, the error is within 0.05 dB. And that's it.